Mr. E.B. White. I've just concluded reading your newest novel, The Trumpet of the Swan, and I find myself compelled as a proud conservative and patriotic American to write to you expressing my utter and complete disgust. Is this what passes under the guise of children's literature in this increasingly godless society? If so, then it is no wonder why our country is so quickly circling the drain. Your story certainly begins innocently enough, a young man, outdoors, adventuring, and enjoying the fruits of nature. Two swans in a traditional monogamous relationship, planning to start a family. Why, initially, I even enjoyed and identified with the character of the father swan, a proud, authoritative, true patriarch of his family. Excellent stuff. But oh, how quickly things turn towards degeneracy. Firstly, while I am no believer in the so-called theory of evolution, I do believe in God's natural order, where the weakest of any brood is invariably culled. So the introduction of Louis to the story, a mute swan who cannot honk, falls into this category. On his original assessment, the father swan's first instinct, to wonder how much the trouble of having a defective child would affect him personally, was spot on. If only he had chosen to trust himself, perhaps this whole book could have been saved and a good lesson taught to all. But oh no. Sentimentality and touchy-feely liberal DEI nonsense is, of course, the current fashion of the age, and so we must begrudge that Louis is just as deserving as all the other swans at the lake. What, I ask, about the other swans who can honk? Do they also deserve to have their stories told? I think so. But coddling a defective swan is not enough for you, Mr. White. You then have to take a step further. Louis decides that he will travel to Sam Beaver's residence in the attempt to get educated in reading and writing. So here we have it, an illegal immigrant, Canadian-born swan, educated at the taxpayer's expense, all in service of what? Should we encourage children to bring their pet dogs and cats to the classroom with them, or maybe random squirrels and possums? I'm sure all the woodland creatures would love a free education on Uncle Sam's dole. Preposterous. Yet you go on, Mr. White, when Louis returns with his Ivy League high school education and writing pad. That is still not enough for you. While all the other female swans who cannot read understandably ignore Louis because he cannot honk, his doting father hatches what may be the most despicable scheme of the entire book. He embarks on a criminal journey to acquire Louis a trumpet, which his father cannot afford. And so what does he do? He violently robs an American small business owner, causing untold damage and destruction to both his shop and his reputation. Personally, sir, I believe that the small businessman is the backbone of this nation, and your novel casually using his misfortune as a plot point is reprehensible. Have you no decency, sir? Now, I will try to ignore that a swan, having no lips, cannot play a trumpet, even though that biological fact creates a plot point large enough to float 3 swan boats through. I will jump straight to the next of my primary complaints. Rather than Louis learning patriotic hymns and attempting to better himself through good, wholesome American fare, you insist that he become enamored with that immoral and devilish noise known as jazz. What are you really trying to teach our children here, Mr. White? That if they ever find themselves a little short on cash, that the quickest way to remedy that problem is to throw in with the seediest juke joint that they can find? We all know what jazz musicians are into, Mr. White, and I don't have to tell you that it is not Bible study. So no, Mr. White, I did not enjoy your silly children's book, and I will have you know that I am sending copies of this letter to the media, to schools, to libraries nationwide in an attempt to see it removed from the shelves. We must protect our most precious of resources, impressionable young youth everywhere. I hope you take a good long look at yourself and at the downfall of this once great nation and feel remorse for your contributions to that decline. Good day, sir. Sincerely, a concerned citizen.